Good afternoon, everybody. Chopin Martin Millard here. Hope you're going well. 27th of December 2024 today, and I'm going to be doing a bit of a year in review type of thing while I clip my nails and top up my tablet box. People like metronome. So yes, the year started in January, as it always does, and in the first 2 days I found out that these London transport strikes were going to affect the company I was going to be working for, which would mean we would not have any business for 4 days. Now, I could have just basically stayed at home and waited out for those 4 days, but there have been some places in North Africa and in Europe that I've been dying to go back to for the last 12 years, such as Tangier and Gibraltar and Malaga, however I guess say it. So I booked what you call, I wouldn't really say it was an open-ended ticket. So I just bought a ticket to Marrakesh, and then I made my own way back to Malaga, and then I flew home from Malaga. But on this trip, I went to 5 different synagogues in Morocco, and I learned so much more about its Jewish history than I ever knew about. Like, many years ago, my first trip to Africa, I only had like 5 hours in Tangier, and it was absolutely shit because of all the touts. But then things have changed in like the last 12 years. I went back to Tangier to kill those ghosts, had a good look around, saw a few synagogues, few museums. I got stoned by inhaling passive marijuana smoke in a shisha bar in Tangier, and I also saw the hotel that William Esparro stayed in Tangier and all the other beaten poets. So I was really proud that I went back to Morocco, but another great thing was I was able to go to Morocco twice this year. I had to get to my 100th country like this year. There was like no doubt about it. And what way to celebrate would be at the top of Africa in Tunisia. Before going there, I took a revisit to Nice in France, which I never explored in my life. I just taken a train from Paris and then taken a train onto Monaco. I did go back to Monaco to vlog that famous cemetery where Josephine Baker and Roger Moore are buried, but unfortunately my camera at the time was so damn corrupt, so I couldn't really get much good footage. But there's a nice video of me doing the Charleston while standing next to Josephine Baker's grave. And she's such an iconic lady for like what she did. My dad said, because of her race, she experienced racism in her own country of America. But when she moved to France, nobody cared that she was African American. They all like admired her and all for the great things she did for France during World War II. So let's not forget about those types of heroes in foreign lands. Yes. And the crazy thing is I went across the border to Italy for dinner because the food in Monaco wasn't really that good. So I went back to this Italian border town I visited when I was 25, called Ventimiglia, had pizza, gelato, coffee, Coke Zero, and then I went back to Nice for the night. I flew to Tunis the next evening, where I spent the weekend there to celebrate my 100th nation. And Tunis was a country I kind of wish I had more time to explore, because I would have loved to go onto that island of Djerba and meet the Jewish community there. But sadly it only had to be just a weekend in Tunis. I flew back to Paris, and as you know, I've been to Paris so many times. I had a meal of snails in the 18th arrondissement of Paris, and plus the usual visit to see Dalída's tomb and Jim Morrison's tomb before getting on the bus back to London. I had a really great passenger on the bus back home that his father was involved in that operations at the Iranian embassy hostage crisis in the 1980s. And he told me that his father went abroad to teach the Pakistan military how to dismantle landmines. So, an interesting fella. Shout out to you. I returned to Ireland for the first time in 9 years, as I hadn't been back to Ireland since 2015. I'd only been to Dublin. I still haven't been to Northern Ireland. So I went to Cork for the day to visit Rory Gallagher's grave. I can't name any 3 songs of Rory Gallagher, but it's just that he's quite an influential person, because, without Rory Gallagher, You probably wouldn't have Thin Lizzy, you probably wouldn't have U2, you probably wouldn't have The Cause, you probably wouldn't have Sinead O'Connor. Is that? I didn't give myself the Kiss the Blindy Stone because I thought, oh, €20, bit of a tourist trap. You get the gift of the gab for doing that, but I already kissed a woman who's kissed that stone, so she passed it on to me. Yes. March, I went up to Manchester to vlog where the Bee Gees lived, in their childhood home, which is still owned by surviving Bee Gee Barry Gibb. I'm not too sure if I ever will get to see Barry Gibb live because he's getting on with age, but to be truthful, the Bee Gees One and Only was the first album I ever received as a teenager at age 13. And I still love listening to that album, even though when I used to listen to that Bee Gees live album at work, my Grenadian girlfriend at the time, Lena, she'd be like, "Pass off Celine Dion, Martin, change it to the next track." And you know, like, I used to date a woman who loves Celine Dion, and Celine Dion is a sack of shit. Pardon my tongue. My thyroid medication in the way. Yes. What else did I do? April, I went back up to Birmingham to see a couple of friends of mine, and then up to Macclesfield, where I catch up with my usual friend every couple of months. But then a week later, I had a bit of a health scare when I was having chest pain at work. I don't know if it was the stress of my job in London that caused it, or having 3 cups of coffee and a glass of Coca-Cola within a day, but I guess, you know, caffeine doesn't really do you good. You just stick to, don't have 3 cups of coffee a day, you're doing it wrong, just have 1 cup of coffee. And or don't be like, 1 cup of coffee, 1 tea, 1 piece of chocolate. Just have 1 caffeinated drink a day and you'll be fine. My blood pressure went through the roof later on, but I'm lowering it. Gotta watch my diet. Gotta watch what I do. Gotta make sure I sleep well. Gotta make sure keep everything under control, because I really don't want to have like bloody adrenal crisis where I had if I was throwing up on medication, I would have to go to a hospital and get a hydrocortisone injection, because that would be an adrenal crisis. But I don't really like talking much about my medical conditions online, but let's just say I've stayed out of hospital this year, which is a good thing. Now, at the end of March, I remember picking up my last passport, looking at my visa of Ghana, and I felt absolutely so sad and shattered that I couldn't go to Ghana in 2020 because of the fucking pandemic. Yes, I kind of blame it all on people who are unhygienic and stupid and who just couldn't, you know, cover their friggin' mouths when they cough and sneeze. I mean, travel didn't return properly for, I guess, close to 2 years, and I spent all of 2020 not going to any new countries. I didn't go to any new countries for 2 whole years. So, I looked at my Ghana visa, I told myself, I gotta right the wrong. I gotta redeem myself. Because prior to that Camp to Ghana trip, I was supposed to go to Barbados, but then Thomas Cook went bust. So, it was in my best interest that I had to see a bit more of Africa. So, I booked a 1-week trip to West Africa, flew from London to Accra via Portugal, drove across to Togo, flew from Togo to Ouagadougou for the weekend via Abidjan, then flew onto Benin via Abidjan on the Sunday, and then on a Monday I drove all the way from Cotonou to Accra all in one day. I had a really good food coma in Accra because the food in Ghana is so amazing, and I'm proud to say you can actually compare it to the food in Jamaica. It's just so similar. Riaz Phillips did a video about how Jamaica and Ghana are so damn similar in culture, food, transport, colors, religion, whatnot. But unfortunately, one of my Jewish friends asked me if I could get a minyan in Accra, and sadly I couldn't find any synagogues or kebab, but I know I can get a minyan in Jamaica. Let's do that. But I was kind of complaining that my time in West Africa, it should have been 2 weeks, because that's what I wanted to do 4 years ago. I wanted to have 2 weeks to go to Ghana and all of its neighbours, even the Ivory Coast. I didn't really see much Ivory Coast at the airport, but I still count that I went to the Ivory Coast because I put my 2 feet on the ground at the airport. So, went back to London, went back to my usual job. June, what did I do in June? Nothing really interesting in June, I guess. I did go back to Birmingham to see my friends, to celebrate my recent success on my Ghana trip. In July, I had a big, adventure around England. I was supposed to go see Stevie Nicks one weekend, and then see a friend the following week. But then, unfortunately, Stevie Nicks hurt her leg in Glasgow, and this gig in Manchester had to be postponed for a prior week. So I had to get my stars aligned. How I'd go from London to Birmingham to see friends of mine on a Sunday, to Macclesfield to see my South African buddy, and then to Manchester to see Stevie Nicks, and then be back at work then on a Wednesday afternoon. Did it all. I was so proud. I went to see Stevie Nicks because without that Belladonna album, I probably would have been in a coffin right now, or I would be in jail for a long time. Just would have done some stupid things when I was 23, and I probably would have never been able to travel the world if I had done those dumb things. But here I am, still alive today at age 39. Thank you, Stevie Nicks. Much appreciated. And also, I went up to Cambridge to see my cousin, who I hadn't physically seen in 5 years. That's just my own fault because I've been a bit lazy. I really do have to make the time to see relatives of mine in this country, even if they are, really far away. I've got a cousin in Scotland, a cousin in the Channel Islands, and a cousin in Cambridge. So I have to take time out of my life to see these people, even if it's going to be 13 hours on a bus. Yes, so the end of August, I was talking about where I wanted to go in the world. I thought, well, I haven't been back to North Asia in ages. I'd never been to Japan, I'd never been to the Koreas or Taiwan or the Philippines. I thought I could go back to that and have a 2-week trip. But then, in 2019, I really wanted to travel from Morocco to Guinea-Bissau by land. And I couldn't really do that because of the time constraints of the time I was allowed off. So I thought, okay, now's the time to do it. I simply flew back to Marrakesh 9 months after my last visit. And then I traveled all the way to Guinea-Bissau in 10 days flat. Yes, I was on a bus from Marrakesh all the way to Dakhla in the southern part of Morocco. Don't call it Western Sahara because the locals get pissed. And then I went through Mauritania, and sadly I didn't do the Iron Ore train because of my health, but now it's illegal to ride the Iron Ore train. I don't have any regrets about not doing it because I prefer to put my health first rather than do something stupid which could impact my health years down the track. Didn't really venture much into the deeper Sahara of Mauritania. I just drove from Nouadhibou to Nouakchott down to Rosso and had to deal with some scumbags on the border. But I was glad I went back to Senegal and I gave it another chance because 3 years ago I was scammed on the border by these dumbass police officers who were lying, corrupt, and they just retarded vermin. And I went back to that same border crossing, and they didn't give me a hard time. No police officer gave me any BS apart from the time I was crossing from Senegal to Guinea-Bissau. Had to pay $5,000 in tax. Looked it up in Eye of the Land. Yeah, it's road tax. They need the roads in Guinea-Bissau are quite bad. You drive from Ziguinchor to Guinea-Bissau in a day. Google Maps will say it will take you 4 hours, but this is Africa, double that. The roads go from good to bad to worst to worst to bad to good. It's just a cycle of traveling on tarred roads and then mud roads. I'm glad I didn't really venture onto Guinea-Conakry because there would be much worse roads. I am planning on flying into Guinea-Conakry next year and then taking a boat to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and then onto Liberia. And maybe I'll definitely go to Ivory Coast and see it properly. Yes. And yeah. So I drove all the way back up to Dakar to fly to Marseille, and then I had a painful 17 hours waiting at the airport to get my flight home to London. And then it was the fourth quarter it dawned on me that I had not been out of the country on my birthday for the last few years. I've had my birthday in Suriname, Senegal, Serbia, Siberia, Georgia, Australia, New Zealand. I had to have my birthday this year in North America, so I settled on Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis. I only had 4 days to look around that region because I only wanted a few days off work. I needed to be back on my job. I just wanted to, turn 39 in St. Kitts and Nevis, and that's what I did. I had a lovely time in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a really beautiful country. And the exciting thing was I met 3 South African tourists on a boat trip out to Nevis on Sunday, and I keep in contact with them because it's my Ashkenazi roots and meeting other people of Ashkenazi descent around the world. It's a great way how to connect with other people. I'm really proud of my Jewish roots, and I'm also proud that I've stood up for the state of Israel. But it's quite hard trying to get to Israel right now because the El Air is going to be charging a lot of money, and I'd have to go through Cyprus just to get to Tel Aviv. Yes. So what do I want to achieve next year? Okay. Well, probably definitely stay another year in London. This is going to be my 8th year living in London. I didn't expect to stay this long. There have been times I thought about moving to Belfast, moving to Dublin, but I'm yet to experience what life is like in Belfast, and I can't really just jump to the conclusion that I want to move to a part of the world that I've never visited or seen. Seems a bit pointless. It just seems like, okay, London pays your bills, London gave me a nice place to live in, London gave me a decent job, when Birmingham gave me nothing like that. As for travel, I'm on 110 nations right now. I need to figure out how I can get to a large amount of countries in a short period of time. Like, let's just say, how about doing a Stans trip where, I fly into Tajikistan, I do Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and venture back into China. I can do all that as an Australian citizen because China is now open to Aussie passport holders for 30 days. There's still a lot more of Africa to see. Hell, I could basically say by the end of next year, if I add a few more nations, I've been to half of Africa in under 4 years. That's a really proud thing to have done. But there's still a visa-free thing would be to see more of the Americas, like the Caribbean and Latin America myself. I need to get my US visa done, but it's really problematic because I went to Iran many years ago and I went to Iraq last year, which are really some bad countries with the United States. I just have to prove to them that I am a good person with no criminal records and my ties to the United Kingdom, and that I've not done anything really stupid, and that I just want to go to Florida to see a few subscribers of mine, and take a boat over to the Bahamas. Because to get from London to Bahamas direct, without going through the United States, is like £800 sterling. Now if you go through Canada, it's like $550, or if you go through Florida, I guess it's less than £500. But I've never really wanted to venture back into America, even after all this time, because I spent 6 whole weeks there when I was 25. And then it gets a bit iffy in my life when I tend to venture back into lands I've already been to. It's like, last year I went to 19 different countries, but only 3 of them were new. Iraq, Uzbekistan, and Egypt. I want to explore more lands. I don't want to be taking, trips to... as much as I really want to go to Northern Ireland, I just kind of think, I'd rather go to Liberia. Or, as much as I want to go to Jersey, even though my cousin's in Guernsey, I'd be like, I'd rather go to Djibouti. So anyway, stay positive. Too early to say this, but I hope you have all had a good Christmas. Whether if you're Western Christianity or Orthodox, your Christmas is next week, on the 7th, the week after. And also, Happy Hanukkah to all followers of the Jewish faith, including me myself, as a man descendant of Ashkenazi Jews from Holland and Germany. This is Martin Mellhead, over and out.